All right, good morning, everybody. As Melissa introduced me, my name is Gabe Montgomery. I'm a junior here. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Isaiah 9, and hopefully the tech cooperates. There we go. All right, real quickly, how old are you guys? Just like shout out your age.
11.
All right, thank you. All right, I heard a lot of like 11s. I'm 17, just so everybody knows. So the reason why I'm telling you that's just because for some of you guys, I'm only like a few years older than you. In fact, I remember like being in VBS with some of you guys actually. Yeah, so here's a quick roadmap of what we'll be doing today. So we'll start with an intro. Melissa already did a prayer, so we're going to skip that story. Then we're going to talk about the Bible. And then I'm going to give you guys some applications, and then we're going to close with some prayer. All right, imagine this. You walk into school. It's the first day of the school year. I know most of you guys haven't taken finals yet, but just know a final is a big test at the end of the school year where everything that you've learned goes up and is on the test, and so a lot of stress normally happens because of that. Okay, so you've got a brand new backpack, new notebooks, a fresh set of 12 Ticonderoga pencils, and you sit down. First day of the school day, and the chemistry teacher starts going over the course. The rules, the expectations, and all that boring stuff that teachers do at the beginning of the school year. And then at the end of the period, they casually say, oh, and just so you know, there will be a final exam at the end of the year. And so now you're thinking, great, but that sounds like a problem for future me. September goes by, October goes by, the final exam date in June is written on the board, and the teacher keeps mentioning it, but it doesn't feel real. It seems like some far-off thing. You do the homework, but normally with AI. You pay attention, but only when your friend isn't making funny faces at you. Some lessons make sense for the most part, but others do not. No matter how many times the teacher explains it, your brain just doesn't seem to understand the material. And then there's always that one lesson when the teacher says, guys, this is really important, but then naturally you immediately forget it. By winter, things start getting harder. The homework takes longer, the quizzes become way more difficult, almost like the teacher wants you to fail the class. Then a scary thought crosses your mind. What if I'm not good enough? What if no matter how hard I study, I'll fail the exam? Because at the end of the day, the final exam doesn't ask, did you try or did you study? It asks, did you get it right? Spring shows up, the weather gets nicer. However, your motivation disappears. You keep telling yourself, I'll study later. Later turns into tomorrow. Tomorrow turns into the next month. And the next month turns into, shoot, the exam is in 1 week. As you look ahead, you commit to studying for 3 hours per day. Now the exam feels huge. It feels like a massive brick wall between you and time with friends and mission trips. That's missions trip to Puerto Rico. Shout out to my guys who went there last year. So you study. Sometimes you reach flow state, and then other times you struggle to read one sentence. And unlike the homework and prior tests, you actually try. You rewrite notes. You highlight so much that your highlighter bleeds through to your desk. And you watch organic chemistry tutor on video to watch videos where he promises to summarize a unit in 10 minutes, but then you never understand anything, so you're left more confused than the beginning. But no, if you haven't done that yet, you will, trust me. The night before the test, with your notes sprawled out on your desk, practice problems crumpled, overflowing the trash can, all that you're left to do is sit down in your bed and think, I really hope this is enough. And all you're left to do really is hope for some sort of miracle. Next morning you wake up, it comes up way too fast. You wake up at 7 and try and get some last minute cramming, even though you know it's useless. You walk into class and it's weirdly quiet. Nobody's bragging about how confident they feel. For the first time all year, even that one nerdy kid who's like, I didn't study and still gets A's is silent at the back of the classroom, cramming still. Then the teacher stands up. You clear your desk and take out a fresh set of pencils and you hope for the best. The teacher stands up at the front of the classroom and starts talking. And for the first time all year, you fully pay attention, only to hear that in order to pass the class, you must get nothing wrong. a perfect score. A gasp escapes everybody in the testing room as the realization that failure was inevitable sets in. You realize that there's no chance that you're going to get a perfect score, which means that all this studying will be for nothing. And if that wasn't enough, the teacher continues. They remind your class that the test covers the entire year, every unit, every lesson, every minute of every lesson. And you suddenly realize that trying really hard doesn't erase the stuff that you've never learned from that one pesky unit back in October. But instead, you brace yourself to see the testing booklet that the teacher's about to pass out. But the teacher pauses. Instead of handing out the test, they say, the exam is real. The standard of perfection hasn't changed. But somebody else already took it for you guys. Everybody looks up. They explain that this person didn't miss a single question. They understood everything, and they got a perfect score. And now, for reasons you don't fully comprehend, that perfect score is being given to you. Not because you earned it, not because you studied enough, because it's a gift. And all you have to do is accept it. There's a moment of silence. Then relief hits the room. Somebody whispers, "Wait, seriously?" And for the first time all year, you can truly breathe. The pressure you carried from September to June is gone. Not because the standard disappeared or became less, but because it was finally met. So here's why I told you that story. That feeling, that pressure, that waiting, that feeling that you're carrying something you can't fix on your own, that's not just a school thing, it's a human thing. And the people Isaiah was talking to felt the same way. They weren't stressed about a test, but they were living under some heavier things. Darkness, fear, and the feeling that things that were broken would never fix themselves. And right when they thought they were stuck, when they'd been waiting a long time, God didn't say, "Try harder." He promised light. He promised his son. Let's read what Isaiah says next. The verses will be on the next few slides. I need some volunteers to read like 2 to 3 verses each. So if I call on you, can you just pick up where the previous person left off? Thanks. Do I have any volunteers to read? Back of the classroom, can you read that?
Nevertheless, the time of darkness and despair will not go on forever. The land of Symphonian and Nepal will be humbled. But there will be a time in the future where Galilee of the Gentiles, which flies along the road that runs between the Jordan and the sea, will be filled with glory. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in the land of deep darkness, the light a light will shine. You will enlarge the nation of Israel, and the people will rejoice. They will rejoice before you, as people rejoice at the harvest. And like warriors fighting the plunder, you will break the yoke of their slavery, and lift the heavy burden from their shoulders. You will break the oppressor's rod, just as you did when you destroyed the armies of Midian.
Great job. Any other volunteers? Front row? Or second row, I guess.
Boots of a warrior and the uniforms blood-stained by war will all be burned. They will be fuel for the fire, for a child is born to us, a son is given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His government and his peace will never end. He will rule with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David for all eternity. The passionate commitment of the Lord of Heaven's armies will make this happen.
Great job, thank you. Do I have one more volunteer? Front row, thank you.
The Lord has spoken out against Jacob. His judgment has fallen upon Israel, and the people of Israel and Samaria, who spoke with such pride and arrogance, will soon know it. He said, "We will replace the broken bricks of our ruins with finished stones, and we plant the felled
Sycamore fig with cedars. Yep.
But the Lord will bring presence of enemies
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you to all those who read. I had Starburst with me, but then I ate one before, and they're from Halloween, so they're like rock hard, and I figured I probably shouldn't give those out. So we're going to stop there. Isaiah 9 continues for 10 more verses, and the rest of the verses are about God's wrath against Israel because of the sins that they are committing. So now I have some guiding questions based on what we just read as a group. So firstly, what stood out to you guys? Did any words or phrases stand out to you guys as we were reading? Annika, do you know any? Cool, good answer. Yeah, darkness definitely stands out. There's definitely a theme of darkness that gets repeated throughout, but it's not dark without hope, because it says that a child will be born and a son will be given. So I guess that goes off. Is there more of a dark or a hopeful theme? Over there? Okay, why? Mm-hmm. That's a good answer. Thank you. And then, does anybody see any connections between this verse and the New Testament? Like, do you know where, do we see like Jesus or Christ referenced anywhere? Any?
It says the son will be born, and he will be called the Counselor.
And that's Jesus, right? All right. Thank you guys so much.
Also the David throne connection, bringing up somebody we know from the Old Testament that will be used in
Yep. Thank you so much. That was a good observation there. Okay, so let's back up a little bit and see what life was like for the people Isaiah was talking to, because to understand this chapter, we really need to understand what was going on. First, Israel was in big trouble. They weren't one country like we think of today, which is this guy. They were two nations that were divided, so they're weaker because they were divided. Both Israel and Judah had neighbors who were way stronger than them and could take them over at any time. So the Assyrians were up here, and that's why there's like such a dark theme. And in the end, actually, the Assyrians will take over the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah temporarily. And so that's a lot of like stress and pressure on the people who were in Israel, because they didn't know that if today was going to be the day that they were going to get taken over. So that's why it's just like a dark theme in the verse. Way more stress than just having like a final exam. On top of that, the people weren't always following God. They were supposed to trust him and live the way he said, but they messed up a lot. They were being influenced by the nations around them to worship idols and live in non-covenantal relationships, and because of that, life felt dark and scary. That's why the second part of this chapter is about God's wrath. So here you see idol worshiping. And the leaders of the time, honestly, many of them made promises they couldn't keep and knew that they couldn't keep. For example, in Isaiah's time, the kings of Israel and Judah were supposed to protect and trust the people of God. They were supposed to, rewind. They were supposed to protect the people and trust God. But instead, many kings said things like, "We got this, we'll keep you safe." But in reality, they couldn't. For example, King Ahaz, who was the king when Isaiah was prophesying, promised security. But instead of trusting God, he made deals with the Assyrians, which you can see in the top corner, who were a powerful and very violent empire. He basically said to the people of Israel, "Don't worry, I'll fix this by teaming up with a stronger nation." But here's the problem. Assyria didn't help. They took advantage of Israel and demanded money, and eventually crushed the people. Ahaz acted confident, but deep down he knew he couldn't actually save them. So when Isaiah talks to the people about walking in darkness, this is part of it. The leaders were supposed to bring light, but they couldn't because they didn't have it. So justifiably, the people of Israel were scared, frustrated, and starting to wonder, is there a way out? Will things ever change? Now, I know right now you might be thinking, like, great, why does this matter? God promised a baby to people thousands of years ago, but why does this matter for me today? And you're right. We may not live under armies or have kingdoms fighting and threats of being invaded, but everybody experiences darkness in some form. Sometimes darkness might be stress. Maybe it's a big test or trying to keep up with sports or schoolwork or friends or relationships, any number of things. Sometimes darkness is fear. the fear of failing, the fear of being left out, the fear of not knowing what's next, and even the fear of disappointing somebody. And sometimes darkness can show itself as sadness, when it feels like things won't ever get better, or they can't get better because you can't fix your problems no matter how hard you try. Sounds familiar? Yeah, I thought so. Our key verse for today is Isaiah 9:2, which says, "The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine." Notice how Isaiah didn't say, "The people walking in darkness must try harder." And he didn't say, "The people must escape their darkness before they see a great light." He said that while the people were still in their darkness, a light will shine. That light comes while they're still afraid and confused and struggling. That matters for us. And when you're in that place of darkness, it's easy to think, I just need to try harder. I need to be stronger. I can fix this myself. But Isaiah 9 says the opposite. It doesn't say the people worked their way into the light. It says they saw a great light. The light comes to them by God's grace alone. God looks at the people stuck in darkness and says, I see you. I see your fear. I see your stress. I see the things you don't talk about, and I'm not leaving you there. As we read earlier, Jesus is given many names. He's called the Wonderful Counselor because he knows what's going on in your head, even when you don't know how to explain it. He's the Mighty God because he can handle things that feel way bigger than you. He's the Everlasting Father because he doesn't leave us when things get difficult. And he's the Prince of Peace because he brings calm even when your life feels loud and chaotic. And this isn't just a Bible times thing. John 8:12 says, Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness because you will have the light that leads to life. When Isaiah says, saw a great light, that means that darkness doesn't get the final word because Jesus came to take the darkness away. When you're stressed and you pray instead of keeping everything bottled up, that's the light breaking through. When you're scared and remember that you're not alone, so you lean on Jesus, that's the light. When you feel hopeless and choose to trust Jesus anyway, that's the light breaking into the darkness. And once again, you don't make the light happen. It is by God's grace alone, which means that you don't have to be perfect and you don't have to have everything figured out. Your job isn't to create the light. It is simply to walk towards it and keep moving towards it. In Isaiah 9:2, God is saying, you're not forgotten. You're not alone. And the darkness you're in won't last forever because I've sent the light to come to you. Now, I know that this sounds really simple, but my challenge for you this week is to walk towards the light. That could be applied by praying instead of stressing, or any other areas where you can look to Christ instead of looking inwardly or to other people. The last thing I'll say, and I want to see all your eyes for this one real quick. Melissa, eyes, thank you. God sent Jesus to take away the darkness. God sent Jesus to take away the darkness. We don't need to do anything except have faith and follow him. So let's pray as we close. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day. I thank you for all the people who made it here. Pray that the rest of the services might go well. Thank you that you sent Jesus to take our darkness away and that we don't need to do things on our own, that you came to us while we're still in our darkness. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your grace and your constant love. Amen.